Hello and welcome to the Awaken Feminine podcast. I'm your host, Kaki Lee, a mindset coach and healer who's on a mission to share the love and wisdom of inspiring women from around the world who have gone through adversity and turned their pain into purpose. Today, I'm excited to be interviewing spiritual coach and healer Karishma Sharma, who I know has so much love and wisdom to share with us today. Do I have you there, Karishma?
Oh, yes, I'm here and I'm so excited to be here.
Welcome, beautiful. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. Before we dive in, can you tell us a little bit more about you, what you do, and where you're joining me from?
Yeah, of course. But thank you, first of all, for having me. It's really, really incredible to connect with you. So, I'm Karishma Sharma. I'm a spiritual coach and healer. And at the moment, I'm actually being trained to become a spiritual practitioner, which is really, really exciting. So I'm based in the UK, and so my journey started a bit with very, very much feeling very lost and confused at a crossroads, and just not knowing what direction to go in, and I just knew I wanted more from life. And so for me, that ended up on the spiritual journey, lots of personal development. And so after doing lots of work on myself, I decided I wanted to be a coach, and that just led me down the route of really helping people to awaken to who they truly are. And my actual focus at the moment is women who feel unheard, unseen, and unloved. And I help them to step into their power, find their voice, and really live their self-worth, that feel it truly, and really go and live their best life. So that's pretty much what I do. And then on the healing side, I work with my higher self, which is coming down the woo-woo side. So I
Love
work with
woo
my
woo.
higher self and do healing through my higher self with the client's higher self as well. So that's something quite brand new that I'm working on, and really excited to share more.
Oh, beautiful. I've got goosebumps. So I love that. And I love what you're doing because I think as women, we've been conditioned to be not heard and seen. Women have always been like the passive, behind the scenes. The man's always out the front and, being the man of the house, or, a lot of leaders now are men. So we need the women to help other women to really rise and be heard and be seen and really step into the power. So that's really beautiful what you're doing. So,
Oh, thank you.
Karishma, I want to dive in. So, you kind of told us a little bit about your journey, but I want to really unpack it. So, just to share what happened and how you got to where you are now. So, can you share with us your journey to becoming a spiritual coach and healer? So, did you have a spiritual awakening or a aha moment that really led you down this path?
Yeah, for me, I think it was one of my toughest experiences, actually. I went through anxiety, panic attacks, and depression at an earlier point in my life, which then led to a lot of physical ailments such as irritable bowel syndrome, just constantly feeling nauseous. I was just not sleeping. I just couldn't eat anything, couldn't keep anything down, and it was just a real struggle for me. And I was on my knees, I was literally crying because I was just like, I just want to be able to eat a meal and feel normal. And so what happened was, I was actually going to, so I've been brought up a Hindu, so I was going to the Hindu temple once a week just to, sit in peace. And there happened to be some people there who were doing healing, and I'd never really looked into healing or heard much about it. And it was pranic healing, so it was to do with the chakras. So I thought, let me give it a go. And I just had one session, and it was just incredible. It literally felt like I had darkness and then it was just lifting. So it was absolutely incredible. And I thought, I need to know more about this. And that's basically how I started doing energy healing. I started training in it and got connected to it. And then I started to learn more about spirituality, and I got into personal development. And then that's where I went from, like, really feeling like the victim, like the world is against me, like I'm at rock bottom and will never get out, to then starting to see like, actually, I can turn things around, and there is more to life. And it just started opening a whole new world for me. And then as I started to connect more with spirituality, I then found a community that I belong to now, and I started to train as a coach. And the more I learned, the more I just started to feel more empowered. I started to really do my inner work, really dealing with traumas, dealing with cultural programming, programming from society, and just really, really connecting with the universe as well, and universal laws. And that's really what made me feel like, oh my gosh, I can really do this. And then I started to connect with my higher self and just guides and things like that. And that's when I was just like, whoa, this is like opened a whole different door to a different world. And it's just like, before I would have thought that's really crazy. But when you actually go through it, experience it, and, you look back and you think, I was at rock bottom, and now, I'm running a business and helping other people. It's just, yeah, it's crazy, but it's just the most amazing, amazing experience. And I'm just so grateful. And I think that's what a lot of us have to go through, our own separate journeys. And as much as it's horrible to go through tough times, but they actually end up being our biggest lessons and our biggest triumphs. And then we turn them into something positive, which is what I really want to help people to do. So I know that was a long way around it, but
No,
that's pretty
it's
much what
great.
happened.
Yeah, I love it when guests really open up and really tell us about what's happened, because a lot of times the journey happens and you see the success on the other side, but you don't actually know what's happening between it. There's a lot of steps and obstacles or challenges that you have to go through to get to the other side, and people a lot of times only see the tip of the iceberg, and that's the success part, but not the bottom bit, which is like
Yeah,
all the work that needs
absolutely.
to be done. And I just love that that experience that you had with the pranic healing. It reminds me of when I first had my first Reiki session. It was, I don't know about you, whether, because I was a not, I'm very science based, so I'm pharmacist, so very logical. So before I had that session, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I'm just gonna go because I just wanted to try and see what it's like. But then I was like, oh, okay, something's happening. I can feel all this energy movement. So I don't know whether you were very science based or very logical. So what were you like before you kind of got into the spirituality side of things?
So I am kind of scientific, I guess, so very analytical. My
Mm,
so my background is in analysis, so very analytical mind. So I was there like, does this really work? Is it really going to work for me? They just putting it on. And so I was very skeptical, and so I had to experience it for myself. If I didn't go and just say, what have I got to lose? If I just didn't take that step, I would have been just, I don't know where I would have been at this moment in time. But that was obviously the first opening door for me. So I sat there and I just thought, what, just let go, just experience it. You've got nothing to lose. And when I started seeing that darkness moving from my eyes, I just literally felt lighter. And I thought, whoa, this really works. But I've had sort of small little incidents through my life where I thought, okay, now that I look back on it, I think, oh, maybe I was guided, maybe I was protected. I've had sort of a few near-death experiences, and I'm just like, well, it clearly wasn't my time, because I literally got pulled back from whatever was happening. And when I was in school, I remember I was sort of doing my work in the classroom, and I looked up and I saw a vision of like, I don't know if it was like a godly figure. And so, sometimes you think, oh, whatever, that was just nothing. But now I think maybe it was something, but
yeah.
obviously it just takes a while before you get into this. Then you start to really understand what there is. There's like so much more to it. And you're not crazy.
Yes.
When you find people that connect with you and you're like, okay, I'm not crazy, this is actually real, I can really, talk to my higher self and connect to guides and things like that. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I just
it's just
love
nice.
that the default, when you start this journey is, "Am I crazy?" That's the default
Yeah.
question I think that comes up. It's like, "What is happening?" So I
Yeah.
love that. And when you said you started doing all your, personal development and really learning to not be a victim and really stepping into your power. I just love that because so often we are in that victim mode. It's a societal thing. We're conditioned to believe that everything happens to us, and it's, all the external environment happening to us,
Yeah,
but is we never think about is actually us choosing or attracting those things, and it's a mirror of what we in our internal, our inner self, right? So I just love
absolutely.
how that you really, once you started doing the work, you really went, oh, I'm going to take that power and go and change my life rather than being in that victim mode. So that's really cool. So, Karishma, I want to ask you. So, I know quite a few things happened, but what was the pivotal point, that catalyst that made you really decide that I'm going to help others? I'm going to become a coach. I'm going to become a healer and help other people so that they can heal from the trauma as well.
I think it was just knowing that I was in such a difficult place and I literally did not ever think I was going to get out of that. And the whole time I was going through that really, really difficult stage in my life, all I kept thinking in my mind was, I never ever want any of my cousin sisters, like any of my girlfriends, or I never want any of them to go through this. I never want any of them to experience this or feel like this ever. And I never said it to anyone, but that was literally all I held on to, is I never want anyone, like any of the women in my life, to ever feel that. Oh, I feel a bit emotional like talking about it, but
Yeah.
I just never want any of them to ever feel that pain, that suffering. And I think just having that as a driving force for me, that was like what made me move forward. And then I was like, now, I know it gets a bit like, corporate when you're trying to set up a business and everyone's like, oh, who's your niche? But when I really think about it, like, I just think about anyone who's, sat in their room on their own and really struggling but haven't got anyone to talk to, or like, for me, there was a lot of cultural things, so keeping it, very quiet. I didn't really talk to anyone about it. Not many people knew, apart from like people at work. So it was very much like, keep it to yourself. Talking about mental health in a lot of cultures is like very taboo, as well. So for me it was like, right, I need to be a voice for these people. I really need to step out of fear and just really start challenging those cultural thoughts. And I would rather people speak up and get help and connect with others, rather than thinking of someone suffering on their own in their room, sat by themselves, if that makes sense, because
Yes.
that's the vision I had, and that's what really, really made me move forward and really connect. So yeah,
Yeah. And
that's really my going forward.
yeah, and it takes a lot of courage, especially, I mean, coming from me, also coming from an Asian background, is that centuries, thousands of years of conditioning
Yeah,
where women are suppressed, and mental health, yes, it is such a taboo issue to even talk about. It's like, oh, just get on with it. Why are you like this? Just get on with it. You don't have depression. What is depression? It's not a
yeah,
real thing
exactly.
to them. So it's such a courageous move for you to really step up and go, I'm going to be the advocate. I'm going to be this person that can be that lighthouse for people, so that they can come find me and I can help them step into their power. So that's really beautiful. I actually want to just jump back a little bit about your
Okay.
depression and anxiety, panic attacks, and how that all affected your health as well. So, how did you overcome that? Did you go down like a Western medicine route? Like, what was it? Was it the pranic healing that started your healing? So, how did you overcome all that?
Yeah, it was bits of everything in some ways. I did try the traditional way. I tried counseling. Obviously, I have to recommend that to anyone who's struggling. For me, that didn't quite connect with me, and I think it was, no offense, but to the counselor, I
Mm,
just didn't connect with her on the level that I would like to have.
mm,
So I had some sessions of counseling, but that didn't really work for me. And then I started to do the pranic healing, and that really helped. And I think also meeting brand new people who I'd never come across, like just really connecting, seeing people from a different perspective, and people who had done their own inner work as well, and just how they were looking at life so differently, to then starting like, right, okay, if I want to move my life forward, if I want to change my life, I need to start doing something. And that's where personal development just sort of landed in my lap. I just happened to have someone on my social media who was a coach, and looking for someone who had come out of uni feeling very lost and confused, didn't know what they wanted to do, but knew they wanted more. And I was like,
that's
thank
me.
you, universe. So that was the first time I'd come across like a coach, or and so I had a little chat with them, and I just, what is this whole coaching business? I didn't quite understand it, and everything he said, just resonated. And then I started working with him as a coach. And when I started, I think I was probably, we did it as a group, and I probably was one of the hardest he had to work with in the group, because I was just so like, I guess, stuck in my ways, like my negative mindset, my very, very like victim mindset. And he actually called me out on it, and he said, kind of like, you're playing the victim. And I took that really offensively, and I thought, hang on a second, I've been through so much and you're telling me that I'm playing the victim. And so I took it quite offensively. But actually, now I look back on it and I understand it, and I think actually, I was, very much like, I feel sorry for myself because no one else does. And the whole, I feel unseen, unheard, the very much unloved, just feeling so alone in the world. That's where that took a turning point for me. And that's where I was like, okay. And as I started to do more and more work, I started to feel, I mean, I don't know if better is the right term, but I just started to claw my way out of this dark hole that I just kept going further and further into. And for some people it might be like, actually, you didn't even go through that big a deal. There wasn't much that you went through. There's so many people who are worse off. And that's one thing I learned when I was going through depression, is that it doesn't matter how bad the situation is. If there's someone going through a worse situation, it's not about comparing your journey to someone else's. And it's about learning that your feelings are valid. Because for a long time, I kept pushing them down, thinking there's so many people worse off in this world. There's so many people worse off in this world. And how can I justify, feeling this way? I have a roof over my head, I have food, but actually, I spoke to a friend who was really, really amazing, and she was going through a tough time as well. And she said those words to me, and she said, you're justified in feeling what you're feeling, and it's okay. And I was like, whoa, I never thought of it like that. Like, actually, I do have to honor those feelings, and I do have to do something with them. Like, they can't just stay there. I need to do something with them. And that's what was like the driving force. Like, okay, I need to change things. I need to turn things around. because no one else is going to do it for me. It's just, no one's going to take the pain away, no one's going to make this feeling go away, no one's going to stop the nauseous feeling. I have to do it. I have to be the one that to take the step, as hard as it is, and you're like, please someone just do it for me. But yeah, I had to do it, and I had to pull myself up and just get on with it, and really, really fight my way through. And yeah, and I'm so glad it worked out that way. I'm so glad that I found pranic healing and connected to energy work, and then also did the personal development, started connecting to coaches and other people, and that really moved me forward, because I never really understood either concept, but now I don't think I could live without either.
Yeah, I love that, and I'm so glad I jumped back to ask you about how you overcame the depression and anxiety, because it's such a great reminder that is not a competition. Don't compare your
Yeah,
how you feel or what your life is like to someone else's, and how you feel. Yeah, okay, that person might have worse off, but you are feeling those feelings, and they are valid. So I just love that reminder, and I hope whoever is listening and going through something similar really take note of that, to just honor your feelings and not, yeah, suppress them or discredit them or invalidate them, whatever you want to call it, because it's just so important to understand that you're feeling that way for a reason. Your soul's trying to tell you something, so please listen and then go and find out and
yes,
do the
absolutely.
work. Yeah. So that's
Absolutely.
really beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. And did you find, once you started doing all that work, all the body ailments, so your irritable bowel, did that kind of all go away, or at least the symptoms resided or reduced?
Yes, it did. It took a little while because I was doing acupuncture and things like that as well. But once I started to let go of like the emotions, that's when like everything started to calm down. And I've just, for such a long time, I just had this heavy like tightness in my chest, because that's where I was holding all my emotions. And I never really put the connection with emotions and physical ailments together. And then they the doctor sort of explained that, when he started explaining that actually the brain and your digestive system are connected
Yeah.
and things like that. And those are just concepts you don't really think about unless you're in that situation. So for me, I just started thinking about it, and I was just like, whoa, I really need to deal with both. So that's when I started to like, okay, let's release the emotions. And then, yeah, I just felt such relief. I mean, it's not like, I don't get flare ups. Like if I get really stressed out and things like that, then, the anxiety starts to build or whatever.
Mm.
But I have such better control over it now. And I've done even more inner work since then, now that I do actual trauma work, which doesn't, it's not just, if you've been to war or in a really bad car accident. In like the spirituality, the new thought movement that I'm part of, it's all about whatever experience you've had where there's that negative charge in your body. It's about releasing that, and I've done a lot of work on myself, so that's just really released so many negative charges from my body. And it's just like, you just kind of like,
Yeah.
so your body's just like, oh, let go. And then of course I've got the other side, working with my higher self, really releasing a lot of low vibration in my body as well. So that has been absolutely incredible. So the two hand in hand have pretty much been a real godsend for me.
Yeah, the work you do sounds amazing, and I just love that you also, just that reminder as well, that although we've done all the inner work and worked through a lot of things, that anxiety can still come up, but now you have the tools and the awareness going, okay, right, what's happening around my life at the moment, and really take note of that instead of letting that anxiety really overcome you and put you into that space where you can't even look after yourself. So, yeah, it's just a great reminder. And that gut mind connection is such a new thing, and there's so much science and scientific evidence coming out about how the gut and the mind are connected, and how your gut health affects basically everything in your body. So yeah, I just love that. So yeah, thank you for that. So Karishma, having gone through all that you have, what is your personal mission? What are you here on this earth to do?
I think for me is really to help people awaken to who they truly are. Because I just think connecting to who you really are within, like taking away all those layers of like programming, connecting to who you truly are is like one of the most beautiful things that you can experience. You feel so at peace, and it's just a great feeling. And so to be able to help people to awaken, break cycles, whether it's cultural, whether it's trauma from it that's in the form of DNA being passed through generations, just really helping to break that cycle, help people through the programming, really stepping into their power, connecting to what their purpose is, and really, really living and breathing their passion, manifesting their life they truly want, like
Yeah,
just co-creating with the universe. Like that's what I truly, truly want for people, because
yeah.
I just know that there's so much more out there that we can all connect to. So that's what makes me really, really happy.
That's so beautiful, and I just love your mission. So, yeah, I'm really glad that you are able to do this work and help heal others through your work. So, that's really lovely. So, Karishma, I want to dive in a bit deeper if that's all right with you. Awesome. So, I know you've already touched on some obstacles and challenges that you've been through, but is there a particular experience that that you went through that was the most challenging but led to your biggest breakthrough?
I think it was just feeling extremely, I mean, the best way to summarize it is just that whole feeling of being unseen, unheard, and unloved for so long. And it was, I guess the driving force behind it truly was limited beliefs that I had from childhood. And, I just always felt like I just wasn't good enough. And that just constantly kept repeating itself. And that just sort of built. And as you explained earlier on, it's just whatever you put out to the universe will reflect back at you. And I think that's what just continuously happened. And I continuously felt like whatever the situation I was in, it was just constantly feeling like, I was the one being left out, or I was the one who, the teacher would ignore, or just little things like that, or, that love wasn't shared evenly, or I don't know, just things kept building up. And then it got to a point where I think, it just stopped, and it was just like, I can't take it anymore. Like, I just got to a point where it was just like, this is it. Like, I can't take anymore. Like, I've taken and taken and taken. And I think I'm just one of those people who takes and takes and takes and takes. And then you get to a point where if you don't let it out, you just sort of crash. And that's pretty much what happened. It was just that constant limited belief, just driving, 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 until my body just couldn't take it anymore. And it was just like, right, something needs to change. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So, um, going through everything that you've gone through, and you mentioned the tools and the teachers that were helpful, but were there specifically any particular teacher or particular tool that you found to be most helpful in your healing process?
I think for me, it was definitely, I think connecting to my higher self was huge, because it was just like, sometimes you can be surrounded by people, but you can still feel lonely. And just knowing that your higher self is constantly with you, it's just like that relief of knowing there's someone there that you can always turn to or like talk to, or just knowing that they're there, like you're never alone. I think that was so comforting for me. That experience really, really did make me quite emotional every time I thought about it. And then I think for me, I read the book of Vishen Lakhiani, which is The Code of the Extraordinary Mind. And that was just eye-opening for me, because I guess he talks a bit about cultural programming as well,
Mm.
which was a very brand new concept for me. So I think he was a big pivotal point, and Jay Shetty as well, who, you know, he's done incredible work. I could list them all, like Tony Robbins, for
Yeah.
example, Gabrielle Bernstein. It's just
Yes.
amazing, like all these people. But I think when I bring it all back in and I focus on the here and now, it's probably my coach and mentor, Dr. Erin Fall Haskell. She's based in the US, and she is a spiritual coach as well. She's a doctor of divinity, and she has probably been the biggest turning point in my most recent part of my life. Really, really helped a lot with the processes that she's taught me, the way she's trained me to be a coach, and now training me to be a practitioner. So I'd say recently it has to be her for sure.
Beautiful. And I'm assuming that your book recommendation is Vishen Lakhiani's The Code of the Extraordinary Mind.
Yeah, that I mean, I'm not a huge reader. I've obviously got into it, you know, with all the
Mm.
personal development and then all the coaching and everything. So I didn't have a huge recommendation list from before, but that was a real turning point for me. When I read that book, that really changed a lot of my thinking, understanding. And I'm just like, because it was an easy read as well, and it's easy to understand before you get into the more complex books, I would definitely say pick that book up and give it a go for sure.
Yeah, that book's actually been on my to read list,
Oh,
because yeah, I'm with Mind Valley, so I do a lot of
oh,
the courses that
brilliant.
he's got on his Mind Valley platform. So it's on my to read list. So I'll definitely be reading that. And yeah, and he does talk the cultural programming, because I can't remember what religion he was, but he was brought up a particular religion, and then as he got into the spirituality, he started really going, oh, that doesn't fit my purpose, right? It doesn't fit
Yeah,
what my beliefs are. And yeah, so I really love what he does around
yeah.
talking about that. Yeah.
I
So
actually,
yeah,
oh,
sorry.
sorry.
You go.
I was just going to say, I flew out last year to just outside of Dubai to go and see him live. He
Oh,
was at this conference, and they weren't coming to the UK. So I was just like, I could go over, have a holiday. And the whole Mind Valley team just blew my mind, and his energy is incredible. We did the 6 phase meditation in a massive room of like thousands of people, and the energy was just incredible. So yeah, he's definitely a top for me for
yeah.
sure.
It's so good being in the UK. You're so close to everywhere. I'm in Australia and it takes forever to get anywhere. So yeah, because one of my goals is to go to one of the Mind Valley University
Oh
events they
yes.
have. Yeah, but obviously this year it's all online. But yeah, that's one of my goals. I'd love to go to one of those. Awesome. So, Karishma, I want to ask you, if you could time travel and go back to a younger version of yourself, what advice would you give yourself?
Oh, I think I would tell them to stop looking outside for answers, because it took me a very long time to realize that the answers are all within. They're not out there. It's not, you know, it's not the people out there that are going to give you those answers, because you're giving your power away. So look within. And I think also just to be able to love myself is just something we're not taught about, whether it's in school or just like generally. No one ever says, oh, love yourself. And it's only when you grow up you're like, okay, I've got to love myself. And to try and get that connection back is massive work. So for me, I just felt really disconnected from the emotion of love. And so to be able to love myself, I think that would be something that I would definitely say to my younger self, is connect to that a lot more sooner and a lot more often than I did.
Yeah.
And I also wish that I knew about like my higher self and connected to my higher self. Like I would give that advice, is connect in, really, really cherish and nourish that relationship, because it's really life changing. And yeah, just don't disconnect from who you are, and stay connected to who you are, and don't let emotions get the better of you, and
Yeah.
release what no longer serves. Yeah, so those are like the main things, and
Yeah.
just that everything will work out. And yeah, I think those are the main things that I would say. Quite a lot of advice, but
Yeah. That's great,
but
and beautiful advice, and so important as well. Everything that you've mentioned is you don't learn about it at school, as you were saying. Or most of it you don't learn about it at school, and it's just so important, especially the self-love thing.
yeah,
We're always taught to be compassionate towards others, but we never get taught to be compassionate towards ourselves, right? So
absolutely.
it's just so important. I just love the advice that you are giving your younger version. So that's beautiful. And the
Yeah,
more
my
advice,
younger
the
version
better, right?
would be like, that's a lot.
Yeah. And if you're younger, you're probably like, I'm not listening to that.
Exactly. I'm a rebel.
I don't need you to tell me what to do. Yeah.
Exactly.
Hindsight is always good, great.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Uh,
Yeah.
so Karishma, I touched on this before about how the world, this year has gone through a lot of change, and we're all stuck in our own countries, can't go anywhere, and all good. But and especially this year, there seems to be a lot of people really awakening,
Mhm.
starting their awakening journey. What advice or recommendation would you have for anyone that's starting on this journey, so that they can get rid of any limiting beliefs or fear that is holding them back from even taking that first step?
I think I think a lot of people are quite scared. Like the whole idea of doing inner work, the whole idea of going back and re-experiencing past times is a really difficult concept to get your head around. But I would actually recommend people do that inner work. That very thing that they're scared of is the very thing that's going to give you that freedom, because I was really scared to do it. And there's so many people who for great reason, that they don't want to go back in, and they don't want to re-experience what they felt in the past. But once you get over that, once you do that inner work and you rewire your mind to a new possibility, it's absolutely incredible the way your life starts to change, the way opportunities just unfold. I mean, for me, like, if I think of a year back, I would never have thought I'd be on a podcast with someone in Australia.
Yes.
It's incredible. So yeah, it's just, the more work you do on yourself, the more freedom you feel, the more you connect to your emotions, the more that you let go of what no longer serves. It just, it's just such a great feeling. And that amazing opportunity that comes up, the one that you never thought would ever happen, it's just like, whoa, that's not actually that big a deal. Like, I am worthy of that is, I have a birthright over abundance and prosperity, and it's not something that's out of reach. Actually, I can have that. So I would definitely recommend doing the inner work. And I know it's very woo woo, but connecting to your higher self is so beautiful. Connecting to your guides, and it's just incredible. And if it's not for a woo woo reason, think of it from the perspective of, actually this can help alleviate physical symptoms that you may have if you are struggling with physical ailments. Just think about the release of those emotions in your body. Letting go of those emotions is actually going to help you feel physically better. And for example, like I said, I was holding a lot of weight in my chest because that's where all my emotions were trapped. And to let that go, it's literally like, wow, you like feel like you're like, wow. It's just such a great feeling. So that's what I would definitely recommend for anyone. I know it's really daunting, and not many people want to go and do it because it just seems like, really, do I have to? If I just suppress it enough, then it's not going to bother me. But actually, the limited beliefs that you set in, whether it's childhood or your teens or whatever, they are such a driving force in your life. And to be able to rewire that to something amazing, it's just going to be life changing for anyone who is brave enough to feel the freedom.
Yeah.
And I think there's an amazing quote which is like, what is it, your dream is on the other side of fear, or something like that. Like, your biggest
Yeah.
dream is on the other side of fear. So
Yeah.
yeah, I would definitely recommend, just dive in, get in there.
Yes. That's awesome advice, and so true. Once you start doing the work, it's it's like everything just opens up for you, and the possibilities are endless, and there's that unlimited potential, and you that knowing that you have that potential, and that you are worth receiving abundance and prosperity and everything that you want in your life. So I just really, yeah, I just love that advice. Thank you. So Karishma, I want to take a little bit of a turn, because on my journey, my biggest thing was self-love.
Mhm.
So very similar. I didn't know how to love myself, and I didn't love myself, and didn't know it obviously at the time until I had my breakdown, and then go, oh, right, I'm not very compassionate to myself. So it's one of the biggest lessons I had to learn. So as a busy entrepreneur, what are your top three go-to activities to make sure you give yourself some self-love?
Healing. Energy healing. Yeah, with my higher self, of course. Meditation. I'm actually quite excited. Just a little bit of a side note, it was Amazon Prime Day yesterday, so I bought myself a beautiful diffuser. So I've got all the oils and scents and everything got on
Nice.
its way. So I'm gonna bring that into my meditation and my Zen time. And I know, like, some coaches and things frown upon it, but for me, it's just sitting on the sofa and watching TV, whether it's Netflix, or I still watch Neighbours and Home and Away. So it's like, I have my Neighbours and Home and Away time as well. So for me, it's just like, you know what, if that relaxes me, then so be it.
Yeah.
Everyone has their own way of relaxing, of feeling that love. That for me, that love is just like being able for my body to stop and just saying, okay, let's rest.
Yeah.
And I think that is something that I can forget quite easily when I get caught up with work, but that's something that I'm trying to really, really bring back in, is just really taking care of my body, and letting it stop and rest is so, so crucial.
Yeah. And such a great reminder that what brings you joy might not necessarily be approved by a lot of when people are into personal development, they're like, don't watch trashy TV, da da da, feed your brain with good stuff. But
Yeah.
sometimes you can't keep feeding your brain, because your brain needs time to integrate. You're
Yeah.
like, it can only absorb so much at a certain rate, right? So you need to have that downtime, and have that, whether it's trashy TV or Home and Away or Neighbours, whatever it is, you need that downtime where your brain's just like, okay, I don't need to work. I'm just like watching TV,
Yeah.
and you can do whatever it needs to do at the back. Yeah.
Yeah. That was the main reason I went backpacking to Australia, is because of Neighbours in Australia, of Home and Away, to go to the sets.
It's so funny. I lived in the UK for a year a long time ago, and I swear people in the UK are obsessed with Neighbours and Home and Away. So funny.
I know. When I was in Australia, everyone was like, "That's the worst shows you can watch," and I was
Yeah, we're like, we can watch it.
like, I'm so invested in it, and I can't turn back now. I've come too far.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Oh, Karishma, I've just loved our conversation today. Before we wrap up, I'd love to know what is setting your soul on fire right now.
Oh, I think it's just like the excitement of seeing what's unfolding for me, things like this, like connecting with people that I would never have connected with before, and just seeing clients have breakthroughs. Oh my gosh, that just melts my heart, is when they have a breakthrough and they just, and I see them moving forward. That is just like the most incredible thing that for me. And yeah, just knowing when people are like up leveling in their life and people are like genuinely happy, that's what just like sets my soul on fire. It's just like, yes, come on people, we can
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah, I love that. It's just so fulfilling when you see other people succeed as well.
Yes.
It's just such a beautiful feeling. You're like cheering them on, and yeah, I love that. I love everything that's setting your soul on fire right now. So, Karishma, thank you so much for sharing your love and wisdom with us today. If people want to find out more about you and how they can work with you, where should they go?
Okay, so I'm on Instagram and it's at Karishma V Sharma. I'm also on Facebook at Karishma V Sharma Coaching. And then on my website is www.karishma-sharma.com, and you will find a little freebie for yourselves if you want to get involved as well. so,
Awesome.
so, yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'll have all your details and any recommended resources from our chat today available in the show notes so people can reach out to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor. I really, really loved it. Thank you.
Thank you. And until next time, I love you, I believe in you, and you are worth taking that first step to the life of your dreams.